Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I'm here to talk to you about a game called Endure the Stars. When I was first contacted about doing a review for Endure the Stars, I heard the name and I immediately thought of like the old Space 4X game of Reach for the Stars, which I played a lot of when I was younger. And I was kind of thinking that was the route that this game would take. But then after I got the game, read the rules, I realized this was like a really cool looking tactical miniatures battle game, and not like in the sense of like like Warhammer or anything like that, but more in the realm of like campaign or like co-op, if you will. And then when I read further into it, I found out the theme of the game really grabbed me. The idea of it, and this is like an excellent idea. I was like, wow, it's like somebody should somebody should make a movie about this. And then I realized there are several movies that kind of have the same theme, but this is a really cool idea. So basically, like a colony ship, like 4,000 people are in this ship, and they're heading towards this planet that they're going to go and mine and plumb for resources. And along the way, this contingent of the people on the ship decided they're going to like genetically produce these creatures that they were going to send down to the planet to do like space exploration and to mine it and things like that. And of course, because this is a game of bad things happening, the creations themselves were let loose upon the ship, and they in turn began to rip it apart and kill everything they found. And so here you have this ship that's traveling, rocketing its way through the vacuum of space, and all of a sudden now you have these little pockets of human resistance basically trying to stay alive and trying to stay away from these horrible genetically mutated creatures that are stalking the hallways waiting to devour and kill them. So that is just an awesome idea, and it's very bleak and it's very grim. But it seems like that's just it really struck me as being it's one of those things where it's like the theme gripped me as like you're not really gonna survive, but you're just trying to stay alive as long as possible. So I dug it a great deal. So I got it. I've been playing it. I played it solo. I played it with my buddies. I even played a little bit with my daughter. We had some fun with it. So let me show you how to play Endure the Stars, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you a little bit more about what I think about the game. Alright, cool. Alright, so this is Endure the Stars, and just before I even get anywhere close to telling you how the game is played, I'm just going to say that this is an actual print and play that I made myself. I got the files from the publishers. I went and had those printed off on decent cardstock, and then I just used some scissors and what have you, and I went ahead and took this apart. I have played this solo. I played it with my friends, and we've had a lot of fun playing the game. But like in it, as far as like what we needed from the game, to be playable, this worked perfectly. However, I don't want you to judge what you see in front of you as how the game will look once it is published. I don't have any of the miniatures, obviously. This art isn't finalized. So, I mean, just keep that in mind as I show you how to play this game. What I'm planning on doing here is I'm not going to go through each step-by-step of this particular mission that the game has, but I just want to make sure that you have a good overview as far as how the game is played and the different things that happen during a game. As I said, this is a cooperative game. Each person will be taking a science fiction hero / mercenary or what have you that are trapped aboard that giant ship I mentioned, and they're trapped, of course, with these horrible creatures, these genetically engineered predators, basically, or GEPs as they're called. And the mission in this particular case is they're trying to get into this laboratory to grab the objective, which is much needed equipment that is in that laboratory. And the medic character has to be the one to retrieve it because they actually know what they're looking for. So here is a character. This is the medic, and so the medic, you can see there's a picture here. There's locations for where you can put your equipment. You can have all the inventory you want, but you can only have like one set of armor on, one helmet on, that sort of thing. You can carry all the weapons you want, whatever. Each character has special abilities. The good bedside manner, medic, and field surgeon. The first one's always a passive ability. It's always happening. It's like +1 all healing items in the same zone. So if they use a healing item, add +1 to it. If people can get injured, and I'll show how that works here in just a little bit, when monsters attack them or the GEPs attack them, and once per turn, a medic can heal one of those, and then each character has a once per mission ability. And so, like field surgeon, roll 2 dice to heal any adjacent players for that amount and heal all crippling injuries. So this massive healing explosion basically that you can send around the medic. Of course, you have a health, and once you run out of health, you're dead. These spots here are for if you actually get a crippling injury. Like if your head gets injured, you don't fight as well because you can't aim your attacks as well. If your legs get hurt, your movement is reduced. And if your chest gets hurt, there's a chance each round that you'll bleed out. You have like a bleeding injury, internal bleeding. So then that, of course, obviously would be bad. But here's this stat called Resolve. Basically, the things that you're fighting, these are genetically engineered horrific creatures that they're the stuff of nightmares, and so when you see them, that causes you to make a resolve test, and you start out with 10 resolve. And when that happens, you end up rolling 2 6-sided dice, and if you roll higher than your resolve, you lose a point of resolve. And there's also other things that can happen, like certain events and what have you, that cause the same thing. When you lose resolve, what happens is that certain bad things can happen, and some of this may not make sense here, but just bear with me. So here's some resolve things, like you drop an item, like you can see, you drop an item from your inventory, you scream, and so you cause a bunch of noise. You put a noise marker down so that attracts more monsters to your area, or then you just start trying to run away, like you retreat. You roll this movement die, which I will explain in a little bit as well. Alright, so each player also starts with a piece of equipment, weapon. So here's the engineer character. Engineers has a power suit, +1 to melee damage. It can reuse any one-time item, like an extra turn, and he can create a new doorway if he absolutely has to. He can just cut a hole. Those are his abilities. But anyway, so here's a weapon. It's a plasma cutter. And obviously this is not a very powerful weapon, this is the one you start out with. The stats here, and these can be kind of tough to see, that's the range, so he has to be in the same spot as something. He gets to roll 1 die. On a 3 or better, it does a point of damage, and it causes 1 noise when he uses it. So the chances of attracting something in the zone next to him is only 1. Whereas grenades, here's a grenade right here, that's just going to kill everything where it lands. However, it has a noise of 5. So anything basically in the same area is going to hear that, and they're going to come rushing over towards where that is. So the characters start in a designated spot, and they get to take their actions. They get 3 actions a turn, and then they get to move around. And so they move, they can make noise purposely to try to attract creatures to them, try to get them away from other players. They can attack, obviously. They can search rooms, and all kinds of things, and they can trade items and what have you. But I'll touch on those here in a little bit. I'm not going to actually show you okay, this is the turn where we move, and this. I'm just going to kind of show you what happens. So these are radar, basically there's movement. Think Aliens when they would see the blips on the bloop, bloop. Those are there. And until you actually come into line of sight with them, or if you have certain abilities like the psychic can actually see what they are, until you actually can see them, you don't reveal what they are. When you do reveal them, what happens is that say the engineer goes and checks that out. You're going to take this one off. So this is that. But then what happens is that you have these tokens here, and these tokens are going to tell you the type of creature that is going to spawn in that location, because you have no idea what could be there. And so in this particular scenario, you're not going to run into the big baddie, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you run into either the swarmlings basically or the jaegers. And like if you drew this one, you can see there's a number there. It's a 4, and you're going to get 4 of these little swarmling guys here that move really quick, but only do a point of damage if they. So if you found that, what would happen is you take 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, and you put them on that location. Now, admittedly, these are not the minis, and so just bear in mind that the miniatures. Go check out the Kickstarter; they're amazing looking, and so you populate with that information. But of course, that's something the person can do on their first turn, and then everybody else could move over, and then they can make their attacks on that. And so if you move over and make your attacks, so let's say the medic who has a pistol. I'm not the medic doesn't have a pistol. The psychic has pistols. Psychic can move over there. And then, she could shoot at them. So those things only have 1 hit point each. And so she can shoot them, shoot one of these. This has a range of 0 or 1. And on a 4 or more on 1 die, you do damage. And it has a sound of 2. And so, you just roll a d6, and you'd see if you succeed with that attack. Alright, so here I just got some d6s. So I'm going to roll 1. And so you just roll, and you see if you get a 4 or better on the die. Let's see what we get here. I got a 6. And so I would hit one of those. And then I would, with the pistol, and I would shoot it, and I would kill it, and I remove it from the board, like so. And then, because I made noise, however, I would have to then populate that particular room with a 2 noise level. And that means 2 zones away are going to hear that noise. But then zones, and this might be a little bit tough to see, and I do apologize, zones are either, discerned by, the heavy walls that make the rooms, or they are you count these little dead, so 1, 2, 1, 2, and so if they're not within range, they're not going to draw them close. Now that's important because what happens after everybody takes their turn and moves around and makes their rolls, what's going to happen is that each these will charge forward, if maybe for whatever reason the medic decided they were going to try to go at it alone or whatever and move down this hallway, and so these two up there, so they're aware of our presence. The swarmlings go there, and then what happens when the GEPs attack? The players get to decide which person is going to, be the brunt of that damage. And so what happens is that they'll get attacked, and then if they have armor, let me find an armor card here so I can show you how that works. If you have armor, you will roll, all armor will have a stat on it that'll allow you to avoid the damage. And so this one, you can see the armor is on a 2 or better. This monolith armor is really amazing, but notice how it restricts your movement to only 2 spaces a turn. So all 3 of those, let's say the engineer had this armor. And so he had that armor on, so we're going to say the engineer is going to take all those damage. And so we would take all 3 of these dice, and as long as you got a 2 or better, no damage would occur. So let's see what happens there. So just roll 1. So in that case, nothing would happen. No damage would be taken by the engineer. The armor sucks it all up, and nothing happens. Now, if I rolled one of these, and so the 1, I would take a point of damage. You would then put that on the engineer's card to show that he had gone down a point of damage. And you would roll this injury die. So the injury die has 3 blank sides, and it has a melon, the head, if you will, the legs, and the body. And so if you roll this, basically there's a 50-50 shot you're going to take a damage. You roll this, it comes up a blank, so we don't have a crippling injury because of that damage. And now we're going to have that fight over there. Now, after all that is done, what happens is, you're going to roll this die for each and every one of these little blips that are going. So starting with this one, you roll the die, and then you have to move it in that location. So you move it, and so, like so. And so it's a weird, they actually, will move, and you roll one of those for each one of for each one of those, and then if they happen to move, so if this one was over here, and it happened to move to this location, then notice there's no wall, this is a straight line, then this would populate, and then we'd be forced to draw, if I can find where I put those little tokens down, so we'd be forced to draw one of these, and so here we got these, and we're going to go ahead and draw one, and we got... So it looks like we got 3 Jaegers in this situation. So then we're going to go ahead and take 3 of these big giant guys, populate, remove that, and now these guys show up. And next turn, you know, he's going to have something to deal with as far as that's concerned. And so, you know, and this wouldn't be a very wise decision for these players to do. You need to stay together. You can't go off and run off. But I wanted to show you how that worked, how if, like, something just happens and stumbles upon you. Now, in each one of these situations where they saw the GEPs for the first time, they would need to have made those resolve tests that I referred to. So you'd roll that, and as long as you don't roll higher than your resolve, you're fine. But then it's lower. So, like, basically, it's like the more panicked you get, the worse it gets, because of the fact that it's easier and easier for that resolve to be lost. If you're in a room, as I said, you can search. So if you're like in that room, you can search. And I have, because I don't have backs to the cards, I just have them, we played like this. And then what we did is you just do the back card and then see what it is. So if you searched, and then you get, like, here's a medical laser. It's kind of a better weapon. Now you get to roll 2 dice. It has 3 or better, and it's like really quiet. You have to be right next to things, but it's a pretty good weapon. So you can have that, and you can keep searching. There's no, like, limit to the amount of stuff you can find in any certain room. You can just keep searching those rooms again and again and again to get those items. And so then, like, you know, maybe this one moves this way and moves this way and, you know, moves that way, and so these things move around the ship. And that's the kind of cool thing I like about it, is that you never know if they're going to backtrack, if they're going to come your way, and so you have to kind of plan your movement really carefully, you know, with that particular situation. Now, the other thing that happens after all is done, all the GPs move, they make their attacks, they do the whole process. You're going to go through a resolution turn, and when you do the resolution, what's going to happen is you're going to go ahead and, like, remove all the sound tokens, because the sound has dissipated, you know, and as far as that's concerned, and then you're going to draw an event. And then, so here's an event deck. Once again, I have it like, you know, this, because I draw from the back. So you draw from the back, and this one says it's a blackout. And so movement is reduced to 2, and weapon range is reduced to 0. So, like, all the lights have gone off in this area of the ship, and you're not going to be able to see anything. And that is going to remain that entire turn until you get to the next turn. And then you draw, like, system alert, raider token spawn med bay. So then you'd have another one of these spawn, because, you know, creatures have come into the area and fight. And there's all kinds of things like that, like life support can stop in this area. And that's actually, you know, it's a bad thing because everybody takes a point of damage. But all the little, like, swarmers, they only have a hit point. So when that happens, they get killed off. And, you know, so it's pretty, you know, and, you know, but Jaegers don't, because they have 2 hit points, you know. So, you know, that's, you know, how that works. I should, just let me just show you a couple of the other things that can happen as far as, with the cert, you know, the, you can find, like, medical kits, you know, that can heal the health, because you do get hurt, like, pretty bad in this game. It is pretty tough, you know, to avoid getting, like, that's going to happen. Like, the monsters do swarm on you, because you ultimately just end up starting making noise a great deal, because of the fact that, you know, you're always fighting, it seems like. And stealth is actually really important in this game. Like, being able to figure out which way to go and make sure that these things don't stumble upon you is a very, very important part of the fact. This isn't something where you can just go in guns blazing and hope for the best. It's one of those things where, once again, they have, like, almost an unlimited number of these things showing up, because those spawns happen a great deal with the events. And, you know, they can just throw wave on wave of these after you. And because of the fact that you don't actually roll for their attacks, you roll for your defense, you know, so they automatically do that damage. They're very deadly, and it's something you have to watch out for. So that's, you know, really basically what happens. So basically you have, this is where you started off. So in this situation you would win if you make it to here and you make it back. I should also mention that if one of the... If like a character dies in front of another character, that also, like, causes a resolve test, and then there's certain events that cause, like, you ever asked to do a resolve test as well. So that's also something you have to look out for. But there you go. That is the real basics as far as the mechanisms go. The campaigns and, like, the storyline of the game is pretty amazing. I really dig the idea of this giant monolithic space you know, ship, you know, full of, you know, literally thousands of people, or used to be thousands of people, like just cruising through the atmosphere in these little pockets of resistance all over the place, trying to just survive and hopefully make it to the end of the journey. But so there you go. That is the game. Let me tell you more about the theme and what I think of the mechanisms of the fighting and the mechanisms of the sound and what have you in my conclusion, which I'll do right now. Alright, thanks for sitting through the how to play portion of the game. It really wasn't how to play, it was more like showing you how the game is played type of thing. And I realized now that I just thinking back, I realized I told you I'd tell you about the big bad beastie, and I totally forgot to. So this is the card. Like, instead of like the other creatures just had the little tokens on the, or in the space of the actual published game, we'll have miniatures. This is the Titan. It's this big, giant creature, and you notice it has its own health. It can have crippling injuries and things like that. And the cool thing about the Titan is that it actually has some decks of cards that it uses. And the decks of cards, actually, you draw one for it after it spawns. You draw one for it that tells you its mood, and then when it actually attacks, then like, and the mood can be like, oh, just passive, it doesn't really know, and then, or bloodthirsty, you know. So but like when it attacks, it has all these different types of attacks that are gruesome and deadly, and you draw the attack and you see what happens. And so it's this wonderful chaotic boss monster creature that you can just see. You can see all the health it has. It has like 4 bars of health. And so when this guy shows up, yeah, you stand up and take notice, and you make sure that you get ready for the fight of your life, because you know this is like literally like, obviously this is something that you have as part of, it's a boss monster, so it's part of like the end of the campaign. But anyway, regardless, cool stuff. I you know, there's lots of games out there that follow this genre, this like, you know, each person takes a character and you're going to move them around, you're going to try to you know, like go through a mission and succeed at that mission, and like they use combat and tactical combat as the manner to do it. And I'm always looking for games that like bring something new to the table, or bring a twist, or bring something interesting. And I have to admit that this one does so in several different ways. You know, well, for one, you know, like this guy's awesome. But I mean, the whole process of the different radar spots on the board. Now, I realize I've played other games with blips and what have yous and things like that, but I dug this one because of the random movement as they wander around, and the tension that those things create for the game. This is not an easy game to win. This is a very difficult co-op game because of the fact that combat is so deadly. And you have a situation where, yes, you start off with a full team, but you know, having 1 or 2 of them die is very common. And then, of course, it compounds how difficult it gets as those die, because it isn't something where like you teleport back to the beginning and you start up. No, you sit back and you watch and you hope that, you know, the other players manage to pull off the win so that you can move on to the next story of the campaign, and then you can, you know, reboot, and here's engineer number 4 that wants to join the party. But so it's for that reason, it's just like it's very good, and it sets the tone really well. I mean, I like the artwork, and I apologize because of the print and play. It might not have been very clear for you to see what it was, but the artwork is very evocative for the feel. You know, you get the feeling you're crawling through the subterranean passages of this giant, you know, monolithic, you know, space like cruiser or whatever, that's slowly but surely making its way to its destination, and the bleakness of it, and the like the seriousness. I mean, anybody who's played any first person shooters that have been based in like the whole darkness thing, I think like there was that one Doom or Quake game that was kind of all based around that whole idea of like, you know, just like very dark, very difficult to see what's going on, stuff like that. You know, just really brings home the feel of the game, and also just how dire your situation is. And this is a game that promotes the players, on everybody playing, to work together, and you know, people making heroic sacrifices of drawing the creatures to them by creating a noise on their turn to draw monsters to their direction, so other people can complete the objectives. And more than one occasion we've succeeded in a mission with one or two players, because it plays up to five, I believe, one or two players sacrificing themselves to just for it to work and for it to happen, and and so it's things like that really bring the story of the game home, and that's what this game I think is what I like about these types of games is that it tells a story. You act out the thing, you see it in your head, it just and then this is one of those things once again, like I say, nobody. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. I'm sure there's somebody out there, but I've never heard somebody tell me, 4 years ago I was playing Imperial, and on the last turn, I managed to make the perfect move, and then like my investments paid off, and I beat the next guy by a point, because of that situation. Or I just squeaked out a win on that last turn. Ooh, exciting, And I say that by in the same breath, I really like the game Imperial, but. I still remember Talisman games I played when I was 16 because of a single die roll, having because of the story of the woodsman or the ghoul or whatever, going through that entire process to get to the crown of command and having this wonderful battle at the end. And so like that's the kind of thing that thematic games bring home for me. I remember those things. They're movie moments that occur in my head, and I flesh that out, and this one gives me movie moments in the truckload. So there you go. Endure the Stars. At this point I usually say, well, you'd like the game if you'd like this type of game, but if you're watching this, you know what type of game this is, and if you want a very wonderful like squad based, I shouldn't even say squad based, but like singular person, like 3 to 5 group of players roaming through a giant like empty empty space cruiser full of mutated creatures bent on ripping your heads and spines from your body, then I think you're going to really, really like this game. It's awesome. Go check out the Kickstarter page. You can see how the miniatures look. They look stupendously amazing. So there you go. Endure the Stars. If you have any questions about it, please, by all means, ask away. I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. Thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.